Have you felt something stirring inside of you, subtle, mysterious, yet undeniable, as if your very soul has begun to whisper louder than your thoughts, and your body is echoing the shift? Maybe you've been waking up at strange hours. Maybe you've felt waves of energy, sudden chills, tears that came without warning, or the deep urge to detach from noise and return to your essence. You're not broken. You're not overthinking. You're awakening. This isn't random. This is sacred. To all of you who've supported this journey with your presence, your comments, and especially your super thanks, thank you from the depths of my heart. You're not just watching, you're witnessing yourself. And for those who feel this message in your bones, I dare you, comment 777 as a prophetic sign that you know this shift is happening inside of you. Let heaven and earth record your yes. Because what you're feeling is not just emotion, it's calibration. Your body, your breath, your being are aligning with the frequency of your calling. When the soul begins to rise, the flesh can no longer stay the same. And the symptoms you've been experiencing, they're not inconveniences, they're indicators. So if you're ready, stay with me. What you're about to hear might finally explain what you've been sensing all along, that you were never losing yourself. You were returning to who you've always been. In the next moments, I will reveal 7 divine signs that confirm your spiritual awakening has already begun. And one of them might just unlock the peace you've been searching for. Let's begin. God's chosen ones, these signs prove your spiritual awakening has already begun. One of the most startling yet sacred signs that your spiritual awakening has already begun is the profound fatigue that settles into your very being. But this is not ordinary tiredness. It's not the kind you fix with a nap, a break, or even 8 hours of perfect sleep. This exhaustion doesn't stem from lack of productivity. It comes from an invisible process happening beneath your conscious awareness. You feel it in your bones. Not as heaviness, but as a deep pull, an internal renovation that seems to consume more energy than you've ever given. Could it be that something in you is working overtime, even when you're lying completely still? This isn't the kind of fatigue that disappears with rest, because rest isn't what your soul is asking for. It's realignment. Your physical body may be in bed, but your inner self is running a silent marathon through dimensions, timelines, and frequencies. It's recalibrating. You are undergoing an energetic overhaul, an internal rewiring of systems, beliefs, attachments, and emotional residue that no longer match your rising consciousness. Psalm 23:3 says, "He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake." What if this fatigue isn't failure, but spiritual restoration? Scientists speak of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself when new information arrives. Spiritually, something similar is happening. Old codes, generational traumas, subconscious programming, karmic ties are being extracted. New frequencies are being installed, and this requires power. Think of it like an operating system update. The device slows down, gets warm, reboots unexpectedly. That's you. You're not lazy. You're becoming. Have you noticed how your mind stays awake even when your body pleads for rest? Have you wondered why you wake up feeling like you've been traveling through spiritual terrain all night long? That's because you have. Job 33:15 to 16 gives a clue. In a dream, in a vision of the night, he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. You're receiving downloads, divine uploads, instruction not from man, but from spirit. This kind of fatigue often makes you want to withdraw, to isolate, to sleep more, to avoid the noise of the world. And that's not escapism, that's sacred conservation. You're being pulled inward because your energetic field is in sacred transition. The soul asks for quiet when it's being restructured. Even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray and realign with divine assignment, Luke 5:16. You're doing the same, not because you're hiding, but because you're healing. Holistic psychiatrist Dr. Kelly Brogan once said, "Healing is not about feeling better, it's about becoming more conscious." The same applies to you. You're not just exhausted, you're becoming more aware. Your nervous system is learning a new rhythm. Your breath is repatterning to carry revelation. Your cells are letting go of trauma stored like corrupted files. Romans 12:2 reminds us, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That renewal doesn't just happen mentally, it's physiological. Meanwhile, others may mislabel you. They might call it burnout, depression, or disinterest, but you know intuitively, this isn't apathy, it's adaptation. You're becoming more sensitive to energy, more attuned to alignment, more selective about what enters your field. In psychology, this is called energetic boundary formation, a necessary part of individuation. You're not pulling away because you're tired of people. You're creating sacred space so the spirit can complete the upgrades within you. A snake sheds its skin not in battle, but in solitude. Trees go bare not because they're dead, but because they're preparing for bloom. The caterpillar doesn't transform on the stage. It cocooned itself in darkness so it could become weightless. Could it be that what feels like regression is actually a divine reintroduction? In one small village, a young woman named Adira began sleeping 12 hours a day, dreaming of ancient places she'd never visited. She felt guilty until she met an old midwife who told her, "When the soul gets pregnant with light, the body has to carry it." That sentence changed everything. She stopped apologizing for her stillness and started honoring her awakening. Her rest became her resistance. Meanwhile, Nathan Elridge, a well-known corporate strategist, ignored his soul's fatigue. He dismissed the signs: insomnia, restlessness, loss of passion. He medicated with ambition. Eventually, his body collapsed during a keynote speech. The doctor said his nervous system was in burnout, but deeper than that, his soul was in exile. Proverbs 14:12 says, "There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death." You're doing the opposite. You're listening. You're honoring the slow. You're allowing your nervous system to synchronize with sacred timing. Ephesians 5:14 declares, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." And that's exactly what's happening. You're awakening, not all at once, but cell by cell, frequency by frequency, truth by truth. This fatigue, it's not your end, it's your emergence. One of the most confronting yet liberating moments in the process of spiritual awakening is when your soul demands what your ego fears most: a sacred pause. The ego, trained by a performance-obsessed culture, equates stillness with failure. It whispers guilt into your rest, shame into your softness, and condemnation into your quiet. But the path of awakening does not submit to society's tempo. It surrenders to the soul's rhythm, and the soul often speaks loudest in the silence we're taught to avoid. Have you noticed how uncomfortable stillness becomes when you've been conditioned to equate movement with meaning? When your spirit begins to awaken, your entire frequency becomes elevated, so much so that ordinary life begins to feel almost unbearable. Lights seem too bright, sounds too sharp, crowds too heavy. What once felt normal now overwhelms. It's not the world that got louder, it's you who became more perceptive. You are no longer numb to frequencies that used to fly beneath your awareness. Your inner ear has tuned to the divine. The prophet Isaiah described this shift when he wrote, You will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way, walk in it," when you turn to the right or to the left. Isaiah 30:21. Your spirit is no longer guessing. It's listening, and even your body joins the conversation. It begins to whisper, "Be gentle with me. We're crossing dimensions. Don't rush me." Your nervous system becomes hypersensitive because it's not designed to carry the overload of dissonant energy while recalibrating to divine resonance. This is not weakness, it's alignment. In quantum physics, this is described as constructive interference, two waves of matching frequency amplifying each other. When your internal state starts to synchronize with divine truth, anything dissonant feels like an attack. So why do you feel like you're breaking? Could it be that you're being rebuilt? This is the sacred paradox of awakening. To move forward, you must slow down. To elevate, you must descend inward. Even Jesus told his disciples in Mark 6:31, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a while." He knew that retreat precedes revelation, that silence precedes resurrection. Your soul is not lazy, it's preparing to receive, release, and rise. Pope John Paul II, a spiritual giant of the 20th century, once said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." But even he often withdrew from public duty to retreat into contemplative silence. He understood what many forget. Clarity is birthed in the quiet. In contrast, consider Charles Ponzi, an early 1900s swindler whose schemes promised high-speed returns. He operated with ceaseless urgency, never resting, never reflecting. His collapse became a cautionary tale. Speed without soul leads to destruction. In your case, this sensitivity is sacred. You're not broken, you're being fine-tuned. One young man named Elias, once a high-performing athlete, began experiencing overwhelming fatigue and hypersensitivity to sound. He thought he was losing his mind until he realized he was gaining spiritual sight. In the quiet, he began to dream prophetically. He withdrew from competition, not in defeat but in obedience. Years later, he would become a spiritual coach for others entering the same portal. Nature itself mirrors this rhythm. The jaguar doesn't run without reason. The owl sees best in the dark. The seed doesn't shout its growth. It bursts silently underground before ever reaching light. Why then do you judge your sacred slowing as regression? The Apostle Paul reminds us in 2 Corinthians 4:16, "Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day." You're not regressing, you're restructuring. This phase is uncomfortable. You may cry without knowing why. You may reject environments that once thrilled you. You may feel tired for no explainable reason. But Psalm 46:10 anchors you. "Be still and know that I am God." Your stillness is not empty. It's the birthplace of knowing. Begin paying radical attention to what you consume, not just in food, but in thoughts, sounds, and relationships. If the body is your temple, then silence is your sanctuary. Rest without guilt. Honor your sensitivity. It is not a curse, it is your compass. The very exhaustion you feel is evidence that your soul is being given a new map, a new atmosphere, a new voice. Will you give yourself permission to follow it? As your spiritual awakening unfolds, you begin to notice subtle but undeniable shifts in how your body and soul respond to the world around you. Environments that once felt neutral now feel intrusive. Loud places don't just hurt your ears, they vibrate harshly against your nervous system. Conversations steeped in negativity don't just irritate you, they leave you depleted, as if someone siphoned your energy through invisible cords. Even standing next to someone who's anxious or bitter seems to create a physical reaction in your body. Restlessness, pressure in your chest, or an urge to flee. What's happening to you? Could it be that your soul has shed the armor of emotional numbness? What many don't realize is that spiritual awakening recalibrates your energetic field. You're not merely seeing with your eyes, you're perceiving with your spirit. Like a sensitive seismograph, your inner being begins to detect energetic vibrations that most people miss. This is not weakness. This is spiritual attunement. Hebrews 5:14 affirms this process. But solid food is for the mature, who because of practice have their senses trained to discern good and evil. Your spiritual senses are being trained through frequency exposure. You begin to feel what others are hiding. Their suppressed anger makes your stomach tighten. Their jealousy pulls at your peace. Their fear agitates your breath. And yet, none of it is visible. This is what Paul meant in Ephesians 6:12 when he wrote, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Your new awareness is revealing the unseen war. The result? You become a walking resonance chamber. In physics, resonance occurs when a system vibrates at an amplified amplitude due to an external force matching its natural frequency. You're no longer aligned with chaos, and chaos knows it. So you start to attract peace and repel confusion. People with manipulative intentions may suddenly avoid you. Toxic environments may eject you without explanation. Let them. That's protection disguised as rejection. Frida Kahlo, the revolutionary Mexican artist, once said, "I tried to drown my sorrows, but the bastards learned how to swim." For years, she absorbed the emotional dissonance around her until she finally transmuted it into vivid expression. You, too, are meant to transmute, not absorb. But before you become the healer, you must learn how to survive the sensing. On the opposite end, take Harvey Weinstein, once a powerful Hollywood mogul. He manipulated countless people, operating in secrecy for decades. But his victims, many of whom had intuitive nudges, dreams, or unexplained anxiety in his presence, later testified how they felt something was off long before facts emerged. What they felt spiritually eventually manifested legally. His fall was not random. It was the culmination of a spiritual reckoning that began in unseen dimensions. These signals, headaches, sudden fatigue, nausea, or emotional discomfort, are not imagined. They are warnings from your electromagnetic field. In neuroscience, the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to vital organs, responds to stress in milliseconds. But now, your spiritual vagus is being trained to respond to energetic threats. Your discernment is being sanctified. Do you feel the difference between what is loud and what is true? Deer won't drink from water they sense is contaminated. Dogs instinctively growl at people with unclear intentions. Trees will slow their growth if planted near aggressive roots. You, chosen one, are no different. You are now learning to trust that inner signal, that moment when everything in your body says leave, that knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from your alignment with divine wisdom. Psalm 1:1 reminds you, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take." Your awakening will naturally lead to separation from places, people, and habits that no longer serve your frequency. It may feel like loss, but it's divine filtration. A woman named Aria once worked in a high-profile marketing firm. Every time she entered the boardroom, she felt ill. Though no one mistreated her outright, she couldn't shake the headaches and chest tightness. One day, she quit without knowing her next move. Within weeks, scandals surfaced about unethical financial schemes within the company. Aria wasn't weak. She was warned. You're not becoming more fragile. You're becoming more refined. And this refinement is the preparation for a higher call. Romans 12:2 declares, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." But in your case, it's not just your mind. It's your entire frequency. So when you feel the discomfort rise, pause and ask, is this atmosphere compatible with my calling? Your body knows. Your spirit remembers. Your soul is leading. You might not expect it, but when your spiritual awakening begins, your body often becomes the first battlefield. Aches may suddenly appear with no physical cause. You might feel pressure in your chest, tightness in your neck, or sudden pulses of pain in places doctors can't explain. And yet, deep down, something tells you, this isn't just physical, it's spiritual data trying to move. What if your body is not betraying you, but revealing what you once buried? What if those pain signals are messages from your soul? For the chosen ones, these somatic symptoms are far more common than society understands. As your soul rises into higher awareness, it brings light into corners you've kept dark for decades. Stored grief in your lungs, rage in your jaw, abandonment in your lower back. You've been holding the energy of old betrayals, silent sacrifices, and generational burdens within your tissues like sealed files. And now, God is opening them for healing. Psalm 139 verse 14 reminds you, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your body is more than flesh. It's a divine processor of energy, memory, and spirit. Each pain point is a notification. That stomachache, it could be grief disguised as indigestion. That tight throat, years of words you never spoke. That aching lower spine, the weight of carrying people who never carried you. This is not medical pathology. This is spiritual cartography. The body, like an architectural structure, stores trauma in its load-bearing beams. And when spiritual renovation begins, it groans. Just as old buildings creak before restoration, your body makes noise when it's shifting its alignment with heaven. In John 5:6, Jesus asked the man at the pool of Bethesda, "Do you want to get well?" Sometimes healing starts not with medication, but with attention. The question isn't whether the pain is real, it's what it's pointing to. Poet and activist Maya Angelou once shared that her body would become physically sick when she failed to confront emotional truths. As a survivor of trauma, her pain was her compass, but instead of running from it, she listened. She wrote. She cried. She forgave. And in that surrender, her physical wellness returned. Pain wasn't the enemy, it was the messenger. Contrast that with Charles Ponzi, the infamous swindler behind the Ponzi scheme. His outward charm masked deep inner corruption. Long before his financial empire crumbled, witnesses noted his nervous tics, stomach ulcers, and insomnia. His body was rejecting his lies before the world ever caught up. That's the law of dissonance. The body cannot fake alignment forever. So when your body starts trembling after a deep prayer, when your legs ache after releasing someone who hurt you, when your chest feels raw after finally telling the truth, you are not broken, you are being rebuilt. Romans 8:11 declares, "If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he will also give life to your mortal bodies." That life is resurrection. But resurrection begins with release. A man named Heightened once began experiencing neck spasms every time he entered his parents' house. He thought it was a pinched nerve, but after months of introspection, he realized he had swallowed years of anger to keep the peace. In therapy, he wept for hours, and by the next morning, the pain was gone. What his mind denied, his body declared. Can you trust the pain long enough to ask, what truth is trying to rise through this discomfort? Even the earth trembles before transformation. Volcanoes release centuries of pressure through eruptions. Trees shed diseased limbs so that the whole can survive. Snakes endure pain to shed what no longer fits. You too are shedding. The more your soul ascends, the less your body can tolerate what is out of resonance. Isaiah 40:31 gives hope. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Strength doesn't return by force. It returns by surrender. That's why days of fasting, worship, or inner healing often leave you feeling sore. The body doesn't just carry spirit, it becomes a record of spiritual transactions. Your body is not malfunctioning, it's evolving. Each ache is an echo of something leaving. Each stretch of fatigue is a baptism into your new frequency. 1 Corinthians 6:19 reminds you, do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you? You're not just being cleansed, you're being consecrated. What if every symptom is sacred? So honor the temple. Rest it like a sanctuary. Feed it like sacred soil. Speak to it with blessing, not shame. When you hold your pain with reverence instead of resistance, something extraordinary happens. It begins to speak. And when it speaks, it heals. And when it heals, clarity emerges like dawn after a storm. Because when the spirit finds balance, the body aligns, and pain becomes prophecy. Your appetite is changing because your spirit is recalibrating. One of the most disorienting and yet prophetic signs that you are evolving spiritually is when your relationship with food begins to shift radically. What once brought you comfort, delight, or distraction suddenly feels foreign. You may lose your appetite entirely, or develop a craving for foods you never paid attention to before. These aren't random preferences. These are vibrational instructions being downloaded through your body. Why does the food you used to love suddenly feel like a burden? Because as your spirit ascends, your body follows, and your cells begin rejecting what no longer aligns with your frequency. The same way old friendships fall away, old foods fall away too. The chicken wings that used to calm your nerves now make you feel cloudy. The sugary desserts that once numbed your loneliness now leave you feeling energetically cluttered. You're not being picky, you're being purified. 1 Corinthians 10:31 declares, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. During awakening, the body begins to glorify God through clarity, not just craving. It starts to crave what uplifts, not what numbs. What fuels, not what fogs. It starts to know what heaven knows. This is why so many chosen ones report a deep inner resistance to meat, fried foods, refined sugar, caffeine, or heavily processed meals, without being told by any doctrine or diet plan. It's not legalism, it's cellular discernment. Your taste buds are being reprogrammed by your purpose. Even Psalm 104, verse 15 speaks of divine design in food, wine that gladdens human hearts, oil to make their faces shine, and bread that sustains their hearts. Each food carries frequency, and you're beginning to notice. On the other end of the spectrum, some experience the opposite, an increase in appetite, especially for fruits, roots, seeds, spring water, and high hydration foods. This is not gluttony, it's cellular restoration. The soul, while purging dense energies, calls upon the physical body to stockpile light. In this case, eating is not a distraction, it's a sacred refueling, and the craving itself is communication. During a 7-day fast, a woman named Kaya reported that she couldn't consume her usual morning coffee anymore. It began giving her tremors and anxiety. Instead, her body began to crave soaked chia seeds, watermelon and mint tea, none of which she had eaten before. The message was clear. Her body was now a sanctuary. It needed gentleness. Her temple had new requirements. Contrast this with the tragic spiral of Elvis Presley in his final years. Overwhelmed by fame and spiritually exhausted, he turned to overconsumption, fried peanut butter sandwiches, prescription drugs, and isolation. His body became a battlefield of emotional disconnection, ignoring every internal warning. His fall wasn't just physical, it was energetic neglect. Have you asked your body what it's truly hungry for now? The prophet Daniel understood this long ago. In Daniel 1:12-16, he chose a diet of vegetables and water over the king's rich food. After 10 days, he appeared healthier and more vibrant than those who'd eaten from the royal table. Why? because his food choice wasn't about nutrition, it was about spiritual alignment. Your cravings are sacred clues. They are not about vanity. They are about vitality. You are in the middle of a divine detox. Even wild animals follow this rhythm. When snakes prepare to shed their skin, they often stop eating. When caterpillars are about to enter chrysalis, their appetite disappears. When whales migrate, they store energy with strategic feeding cycles. You are no different. You are preparing for energetic migration, and your nourishment must match the journey. Romans 12:1 tells us, "Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship." This includes how you feed it. It's not about moralizing your meals. It's about recognizing your body is in service to something divine, and your eating patterns now reflect your spiritual assignment. A man named Ezra once couldn't go a single day without soda and salty snacks, but after a radical encounter during prayer, he found himself physically repulsed by artificial flavors. He didn't force a new diet. His body made the decision for him, because the soul was shifting and the temple had to match. So don't shame yourself for craving differently. Don't fear losing old tastes. They are often connected to old traumas or patterns of survival. Every change in your appetite is a prophetic invitation to ask. You don't need a perfect meal plan. You need present moment honesty. Your spirit is your new nutritionist, and it's trying to keep you light for where God is taking you next. You may also notice that when you're emotionally triggered, your appetite changes. Some chosen ones lose all hunger during times of intense spiritual pressure, while others seek constant stimulation through food. This, too, is part of the process. Your body is trying to protect you, but it no longer wants distraction. It wants truth. Emotional hunger and spiritual hunger often masquerade as the same thing, but they are not. The first is temporary escape. The second is eternal invitation. You may feel full but still empty inside, because what your soul is asking for cannot be delivered through sugar or salt. It's asking for presence, for gentleness, for divine fuel. What if your craving isn't for chocolate, but for clarity? What if what you're really hungry for is the peace you've been postponing? The Gospel of John tells us in John 6:35, Jesus declared, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." This verse isn't just theological, it's biological. Many chosen ones begin to crave the bread of life more than the bread of indulgence, the living water more than the soda. The spiritual bread starts to satisfy in ways no processed snack ever could. During his wilderness season, a man named Matteo, once a top chef obsessed with perfection, began losing interest in the aesthetic of food and gained passion for what he called living meals. His dishes went from gourmet indulgence to simple offerings of herbs, wild greens, fermented vegetables, and spring water. "I used to feed people's palates," he said. "Now I feed their peace." This reorientation doesn't mean you must become extreme or abandon every comfort, but it does mean being honest about what feeds your soul versus what numbs your pain. Many fast, not just from food, but from false fullness. Anything that fills the belly but starves the spirit. Even Jesus fasted for 40 days, not because food was evil, but because focus was needed. His hunger clarified his calling. Let your changing appetite be a signal, not of restriction, but of resurrection. Birds instinctively shift their diets based on migration patterns. Bears change how and when they eat before hibernation. Plants change their chemical composition depending on the soil and sun exposure. The ecosystem adapts to prepare for transformation. So does your body. So if you're craving different now, bless it. Don't resist the shift. Your plate is becoming prophetic. Your taste is becoming tuned. Your digestion is aligning with divine instruction. This isn't just a change in how you eat. This is a change in who you're becoming. spiritual awakening and the sacred disturbance of night. One of the most intense changes that many chosen ones face during spiritual awakening is in sleep. The body tries to rest, but the mind and spirit seem too active. You lie down tired, yet sleep does not come. Or you sleep but wake up several times during the night, as if summoned by something you don't understand. This isn't random, it's realignment. The spirit is working while the body rests. You are receiving updates from heaven that cannot be downloaded while your mind is busy with daily life. In the silence of the night, when distractions fade, the soul finally finds the space to speak. And when the soul speaks, the body must listen, even if it means awakening in the dark. Could it be that what you call insomnia is actually divine interruption? What if your body is undergoing neurological rewiring and your sleep architecture is being restructured to match your spiritual frequency? Jesus himself walked on water during the fourth watch of the night, Matthew 14:25, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., a time of divine visitation and supernatural movement. Why do you wake up during these hours with a racing heart or sudden insight? Why do you feel watched, even in an empty room? Could it be that the veil is thinning and you are being invited to participate in what eyes cannot see? This is the hour when angels are dispatched, when heavenly assignments are whispered into souls willing to hear. Have you been paying attention to what your spirit senses before sunrise? What if the reason you wake up at 3:33 isn't coincidence, but confirmation? In quantum spiritualism, this window of time is believed to correspond to high vibrational portals where theta and delta brainwave states become highly receptive to divine downloads. Many chosen ones report vivid dreams, symbols, colors, voices that echo after waking. Some dream of oceans, birds, or climbing mountains. These are not mere dreams, they are coded messages. The subconscious becomes a sanctuary. What do these dreams want you to decode about your current season? Is your mind being prepared for a shift your body hasn't yet caught up to? Often the dreams are repetitive until the message is received. The more you deny them, the louder they become. Don't ignore what is trying to lead you toward healing. In terms of archetypal psychology, the dream state functions as a bridge between the collective unconscious and your personal transformation timeline. Beyoncé once shared how she often wakes up creatively inspired in the middle of the night. Some of her most profound lyrics come through dreams. She honors them. On the other side, consider Adolf Hitler, who reportedly experienced intense insomnia, spiritual disturbances, and paranoia in the night. His refusal to face the spiritual implications led to delusion, control, and destruction. Night visitations carry power, depending on how one responds. Will you reject the whisper or lean into it? Will you react with fear or ask, "What are you trying to show me, Lord?" The difference lies in spiritual integration versus repression. Unmet shadow work, in psycho-spiritual terms, can mutate into egoic domination. A woman named Mireya shared that every night for weeks she dreamt of owls. At first she feared them. Later she learned they symbolized intuition and inner truth. The moment she accepted their presence, her fear turned into guidance. Have you asked what your nighttime visions are trying to reveal? Is the creature that appears in your sleep a messenger rather than a monster? Owls, like your own higher knowing, do not make noise. They arrive with silent clarity. What if your next life direction isn't coming through logic, but through a dream? In symbolic cognition, recurring animals often represent a spiritual totem or energy archetype assigned to your current frequency level. Psalm 16:7 says, "I will bless the Lord who counsels me. Even at night my heart instructs me." These instructions come quietly, beneath the noise. But for those who pay attention, they bring strategy, warning, healing. The night does not lie. It amplifies what has been ignored. Instead of fearing the darkness, consider asking, what is the lesson here? Spiritual maturity is often built not by loud sermons, but by quiet revelations under the moonlight. Many chosen ones report that their pineal gland, also called the seat of the soul, becomes more active during this stage, resulting in heightened dreams, deep visions, and circadian disruptions. Animals understand the sacredness of night. The jaguar, a creature of silent movement, travels through shadows with confidence. It does not fear the dark. It thrives in it. So too must you learn not to resent the night, but walk through it as one who is being transformed in silence. The firefly doesn't wait for daylight to shine. It glows in darkness, unapologetically. What if your night awakening is not about fixing something, but revealing the light that's already inside you? According to bioenergetic theory, your body is not simply resting, it is recalibrating to sustain your expanding light field. And as frequency alignment progresses, what once felt like disturbance begins to feel like divine choreography. Something very peculiar begins to happen when your spirit begins to awaken. You notice it first in small ways. Your calendar feels foreign, your alarm clock irrelevant, your productivity metrics strangely hollow. What once gave you structure now feels like confinement. You're not lazy, you're not disoriented, you're being rewired. It's not that the world is moving faster or slower, it's that you are no longer bound to it in the same way. Your internal compass has shifted from timekeeping to truth-keeping. Have you begun to wonder why your days feel like they stretch and collapse in unpredictable ways? Why does one afternoon pass like 5 minutes and one moment of stillness feel like an eternity? These fluctuations aren't random, they are spiritual indicators. The soul is not beholden to linear time. In fact, when your spiritual eyes begin to open, you start slipping out of Chronos time, sequential, human, and into Kairos time, God-ordained divine. Ecclesiastes 3:11 whispers this reality. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. This transition can be disorienting. You might fear you've lost your focus, that you're missing out or falling behind. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if your disconnection from earthly time is evidence that heaven is taking the lead? Time is no longer your taskmaster. It becomes your servant. You are not detached. You are being spiritually realigned. And this alignment doesn't move to the tick of a clock. It moves to the rhythm of revelation. You notice that the things which once felt urgent now seem trivial. You begin to prioritize presence over productivity, wisdom over speed. Galatians 5:25 gently reminds, "Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit." And the Spirit never rushes. It moves with divine precision, not human pressure. Even your relationships begin to feel different. You find yourself naturally drawn away from people who live in constant hustle and toward those who honor holy stillness. Like trees rooted by still waters, you begin to value environments that nurture rather than drain. You begin asking, who am I giving my moments to? What voices shape the way I measure meaning? Who benefits from my rush, and who flourishes in my rest? Psychologically, this is called time perception distortion, but spiritually, it's a symptom of ascension. Your spirit is being lifted into higher frequency, just as gravitational time dilation occurs in physics, where clocks tick differently under different gravitational forces. Your soul now ticks differently because it's sitting under divine pressure. You're being trained to live above reaction and into reflection. One artist who spoke of this shift was Hilma af Klint, a Swedish visionary painter whose works were misunderstood in her era. She once said, "I am being led by forces I do not understand." She abandoned worldly scheduling and painted only when spiritually prompted. Decades later, her work was hailed as revolutionary, proof that spiritual time always produces timeless fruit. In contrast, Julian Moreau, a performance consultant obsessed with optimization, mocked the concept of spiritual time. He built an empire based on urgency, pushing his staff to near collapse. But one day, in the middle of a speech on accelerated output, he collapsed on stage. Burnout was the body's final protest. Ecclesiastes 10:10 warns, "If the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success." He had strength but no spiritual skill, and the clock he worshipped devoured him. Meanwhile, a quiet woman named Delia, a florist in a quiet coastal town, once began to wake at 3:33 a.m. every morning. At first, she thought it was insomnia, but over time she realized these hours were sacred windows. She began to meditate, journal, listen. Months later, her small floral shop became a place of prophetic comfort. People walked in for flowers and left with peace. She had entered soul time, where divine timing overrides man-made strategy. In nature, this divine timing is everywhere. Bamboo spends 5 years growing its roots, underground, unseen, but once ready, it shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Monarch butterflies know when to migrate across continents without a calendar. The moon doesn't ask permission to wax or wane. It follows a rhythm written in eternity. Do you realize that your transformation is following that same spiritual architecture? Romans 13:11 stirs the soul awake. And do this, understanding the present time. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber. This awakening is not just emotional, it's dimensional. You're being called into chirological discernment, a spiritual awareness of when to speak, when to rest, when to move, and when to trust. So when you feel like time is bending, stretching, disappearing, don't fight it. Don't force the old rhythm to return. Instead, honor this sacred shift. The mission you carry is too precise for mechanical routine. Divine assignments are never late, because eternity does not panic. Psalm 31:15 declares it confidently, "My times are in your hands." Let your pace be set by the Spirit, not the systems. Let your decisions be led by revelation, not reaction. This isn't time lost, it's frequency gained. During spiritual awakening, something ancient within you begins to stir, something primal, holy, and eternal. It's not loud, it's not urgent, it's a quiet pull. You begin to feel the call of the forest, the breath of the wind, the gaze of the stars. Your soul, once buried under the noise of performance and pressure, begins to rise toward what is real. And one of the first signs? You want to go outside. You want to touch something that hasn't been edited, filtered, or fabricated. You want to put your feet in grass, your hands on bark, your thoughts in the ocean. Have you felt it? That inexplicable need to lean your back against a tree trunk, not because it's beautiful, but because it feels wise. Have you caught yourself staring at the sky, not for weather, but for something deeper? This isn't escapism. This is remembrance. You are remembering who you are and what you are made of. Genesis 2:7 reminds us, "Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life." You are not separate from nature. You are its echo. And now your spirit is longing for the original frequency from which it came. Nature is not just scenery, it is scripture. Every tree is a psalm, every tide a parable, every sunrise a prophecy. The awakened spirit doesn't just see beauty, it feels communication. You begin to walk differently, aware that the ground beneath you is sacred. Romans 1:20 affirms, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." The divine is coded into the natural. And as your consciousness expands, you don't just see nature, you hear it. Psychologically, this is known as biophilia, the innate human tendency to seek connection with nature and other life forms. But spiritually, it's deeper, it's resonance, it's spiritual entrainment. where your soul synchronizes with the rhythms of the earth, realigning your nervous system, your breath, and your energetic field. Have you asked yourself why the sound of waves can silence your anxiety faster than words ever could? Why the scent of pine seems to pull you into presence? Because nature is not entertainment, it's calibration. One woman, Anaya Lorenz, a trauma therapist and author, abandoned her high-rise office after a sabbatical in the Swiss Alps. She said, "I realized nature wasn't where I rested. It was where I recovered my identity." Her work now combines forest immersion therapy with spiritual counseling, helping others return to their inner harmony through outer beauty. In contrast, Jeffrey Cole, a real estate mogul known for paving forests for profit, spent years ignoring the land's cry. He constructed malls over meadows and highways through sacred valleys. But after the land beneath his final project split open during an unexpected flood, costing millions in damages, he publicly admitted, "The earth remembers. I forgot." Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it." When you violate what is holy, consequence is inevitable. In a small coastal village, a boy named Eli would walk the beach every day before sunrise. He didn't speak much, but the ocean was his teacher. One day, when asked why he woke up so early, he simply said, "The waves know my name." And maybe they did. Months later, Eli saved a swimmer caught in a riptide. Without hesitation, without panic, he had learned the tides, the patterns, the rhythm. The ocean had trained him not just to feel, but to act. Job 12:7-8 declares, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you." Your spiritual awakening is not limited to books or sermons. It expands through creation. You are being resensitized to the language of life. You're beginning to notice the way flowers rotate toward light, not just as botany, but as theology. You see bees pollinate with precision and feel a lesson about purpose. The mountains remind you of permanence. The river teaches surrender. The wind whispers timing. Even silence speaks. Is it possible that the stillness you crave isn't emptiness, but instruction? That the wild is not chaotic, but consecrated? That the reason you're feeling otherworldly isn't because you're disconnected, but because you're reconnecting to the divine blueprint? Isaiah 55:12 prophesies this rhythm. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you. Yes, creation is celebrating your return, so let yourself return. Let your feet touch the ground without shame. Let your breath slow to the rhythm of trees. Let your ears open to the frequency of clouds. You are not strange for needing nature. You are holy for hearing it. Psalm 19:1 sings it clearly. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. This isn't about going backwards. It's about going beneath, back beneath the noise, beneath the programming, beneath the false urgency, and into something eternal. Nature was never a background. It was always a covenant. And now your soul remembers the vow. Many chosen ones describe an unshakable pull to retreat, not out of fear, but out of frequency. As awakening deepens, the city no longer feels like home. Neon lights begin to irritate your senses. Sirens feel invasive. Concrete starts to feel like a cage. What once energized you now depletes you. This is not depression. This is not withdrawal. This is alignment. Your nervous system is recalibrating to the rhythm of the natural world. And silence, often feared by the unawakened, becomes your sanctuary. Have you begun to crave stillness, not as luxury, but as survival? Have you noticed how your soul sighs in relief the moment you step into a park, hear a bird sing, or breathe air that hasn't been recirculated through machinery? You're not becoming antisocial, you're becoming ancestral. You're returning to what your body and spirit have always known, but temporarily forgotten. You were not designed for artificial living. Isaiah 32:18 says, "My people will live in peaceful dwelling places, in secure homes, in undisturbed places of rest." You're not fleeing the world. You're responding to a divine signal to reset. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes holy. Watering a plant becomes prayer. Sitting in sunlight becomes healing. Watching a butterfly land nearby feels like divine choreography. You are no longer watching nature. You are conversing with it. Psalm 104 verse 24 reminds us, "How many are your works, Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures." And now your spirit is starting to understand the language it speaks. You begin changing habits, not from guilt or goals, but from gravity. You start opening windows wider, letting air in like it's sacred. You find yourself growing herbs, planting flowers, walking barefoot on soil, as if your toes are antennas. It's not a trend, it's a necessity. Your soul is syncing with Earth's vibrational frequency. Science calls this Schumann resonance, the Earth's electromagnetic pulse that many empaths and sensitive beings report feeling. Spiritually, it's your soul recalibrating to Eden's memory. One spiritual leader, Amari Vallen, left her executive media job to run a retreat center in Patagonia after a 3-day fast in the mountains. She described the moment her awakening deepened. "I heard silence speak louder than any sermon I'd ever attended." That silence became her compass. Now she helps thousands return to stillness as medicine. In contrast, Levi Redding, a former nightlife entrepreneur, mocked all things earthy. He called nature lovers delusional and spent years promoting overstimulation. But after an unexplained nervous breakdown during a luxury event, Levi fled to a quiet village and disappeared for months. Later, he confessed, "The ground saved me. Not therapy, not drugs, just dirt and wind." Proverbs 3:7-8 says, "Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones." Even in small acts, reconnection brings redefinition. A girl named Mireya, living in a crowded tenement, planted one sunflower in a recycled jar. Every day she whispered affirmations to it. Neighbors mocked her at fizzy, but within months the rooftop was filled with color. Her presence became contagious. What she couldn't fix in society, she healed in spirit. That flower became a testimony. Zechariah 4:10 affirms this. "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." Nature becomes not just background, but covenant. The whisper of the wind becomes instruction. The way a tree bends but doesn't break becomes a parable about endurance. The rhythm of the waves becomes a metronome for trust. Have you realized yet that the earth is not just alive, it is responsive? That it's not just giving life, but recognizing yours? The more you surrender to this frequency, the more synchronicities begin to unfold. You'll think of someone and they call. You'll ask for guidance and a feather appears. You'll cry out in silence and a breeze wraps around you like an answer. Romans 8:19 declares, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Creation is watching you, cheering for you, aligning with you. So when you feel the urge to step away from the noise, trust it. When your body wants to lie in grass instead of scroll a screen, honor it. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your soul remembers what the world forgot. You are not of the system, you are of the Spirit, and this Spirit longs to commune with creation. You think of something, and in that exact moment, a bird sings. You question a path, and a deer appears at the edge of your vision. You kneel in meditation, and a flower blossoms beside you without warning. This is not romanticism. This is resonance. These are not coincidences, they are conversations. The invisible is speaking through the visible. Heaven is reaching through matter to whisper to your spirit, you are not alone, and you are not making this up. Have you begun to wonder why nature seems to respond when your heart is open? Why silence feels louder in the woods than in a room full of words? It's because you've begun to tune back into the language of origin. Romans 1:20 says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." You're no longer disconnected, you're just remembering. Nature never stopped speaking. You had just forgotten how to listen. You begin to perceive what can't be measured, that trees hum with energy, that stones vibrate with memories, that rivers repeat truths over and over in their flow. This isn't superstition, it's sensitivity. The awakened soul does not demand proof, it perceives presence. 1 Kings 19:12 teaches us that God wasn't in the fire, wind, or earthquake, but in the gentle whisper. You are now attuned to that whisper, and nature has become your sanctuary. Being in nature becomes like stepping into a sacred temple, without walls, without doctrines, but full of holy presence. You don't need to recite anything, you just need to breathe, to sit, to be. Suddenly, silence becomes sacred. Breath aligns. The heart begins to listen, not to noise, but to knowing. Your nervous system relaxes. Your ego softens. Your desire to control everything begins to melt. Why? Because you've started to trust. Like a seed trusts the soil without demanding a growth schedule, you surrender to process. Have you noticed how your definition of time is changing? Urgency begins to feel artificial, deadlines lose their dominance, and you begin to realize nothing in creation is rushed. The tree doesn't force its blooming, the stream doesn't hurry its flow, the stars don't demand their shine. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven," and that includes your healing, your rising, your revealing. This reunion with nature teaches you time without clocks, rhythm without pressure, growth without performance. It's a recalibration of trust. The earth models what the soul forgets. That transformation is not forced, it's revealed. That becoming is not a race, it's a return. You begin to see patience not as passivity, but as wisdom, not as delay, but as divine rhythm. One example is botanist Leandra Sung, who suffered a deep emotional breakdown after her research was dismissed by institutional science. She retreated to a rainforest in Ecuador. There she observed a rare orchid bloom only once every 9 years. That one bloom changed her understanding of success. "It taught me," she later wrote, "that worth isn't determined by frequency, but by alignment." Contrast this with Arlen Griggs, a biotech investor who tried to engineer plant growth to double its speed for profit. His trials resulted in genetic instability. The plants withered. The company collapsed. Proverbs 21:5 warns, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." He wanted control. He got collapse. A young girl named Sella, raised in the city, planted a single lemon seed in a cracked pot on a tiny windowsill. She waited 3 years, checking on it every morning. It grew slow, but one day, unexpectedly, the first fruit came. Her mother said, "Why didn't you give up?" She smiled and replied, "Because the tree didn't." Psalm 1:3 echoes her wisdom. They are like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season. In nature, you are mirrored. The oak reminds you to root deep. The butterfly teaches you to surrender in the dark before transformation. The moon shows you that you don't have to be full to still shine. Even the soil sings, if you know how to feel it. Have you realized yet that everything essential is silent, steady, and doesn't beg to be seen? When your soul begins to hear the wind, Feel the messages in the rhythm of birdsong. Understand the sacredness of cycles. You are not losing logic. You are regaining language, the first language. Genesis 1:11-12 reveals this. God spoke to the earth, and it produced life. The same earth you now touch, the same soil that remembers you. So if you feel more alive among trees than in crowds, more stable under sky than under fluorescent lights, don't question it. Don't fight it. Honor it. This is not escapism. This is homecoming. You are not abandoning the world. You are returning to the wisdom that predates it. You are becoming like nature, profound, silent, resilient, and radiant, without needing to prove anything. Let the rush fall away. Let the system fade. Let the earth welcome you back to the rhythm you were created for. Because when your soul reconnects with the soil, the sky, and the sacred cycles, you don't just remember nature, you remember yourself. If you have made it this far, you may have already recognized yourself in many of the signs described. Fatigue that no rest seems to fix. Insomnia, not from stress, but from an alertness that feels divine. Heightened sensitivity to sounds, lights, energies. Body aches that come and go without cause. Sudden shifts in food cravings. A longing for the forest over a party. A growing unease in the artificial, and a peace in the real. All of this may seem strange or even uncomfortable at first, but now you know this is not weakness. This is a calling. This is your soul responding to a frequency it remembers but had long been denied. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. Have you noticed how the pain often arrives before the clarity? Spiritual awakening does not begin from the outside in. It does not announce itself with fireworks or approval. It begins silently, like a seed buried in the dark, aching to breathe. And when it finally pushes through the soil, what it meets first is not light, but resistance. It meets gravity, wind, strangeness, confusion. It is uncomfortable, and your body, being the wise instrument it is, responds. The tiredness is not failure, it is detox. The sleeplessness is not dysfunction, it is alignment. The aches are not random, they are recalibrations. Could it be that the discomfort is a sacred language, and you are only now learning how to listen? Each of the physical signs you are experiencing is a direct echo of what is being transformed within you. Just as tectonic plates shift silently beneath the surface before a new mountain forms, your soul is being rearranged in secret. And the body, your most loyal companion, becomes the first witness to this sacred renovation. You may not yet have the words, but you can feel the truth in your blood, in your dreams, in your longing to withdraw and re-emerge as something more whole. What if your body isn't betraying you, but protecting you while your spirit updates? Isaiah 66:9 reminds us, "Do I bring to the moment of birth and not give delivery, says the Lord." You are not being teased, you are being completed. You are not being punished, you are being purified. And your pain is not a sign that something is wrong, but that something ancient and divine is being reawakened. It's important to remember, you are not alone, not in your confusion, not in your silence, not in your sensitivity. Many chosen ones are going through these same sensations, privately, quietly, faithfully. Some do not speak for fear of being misunderstood. Others stay silent because they themselves don't yet have the words. But all are being touched by the same invisible fire, the same light that disrupts the old patterns and calls forth the soul's original design. Have you considered that your sensitivity might be your compass, not your curse? So if you are in pain, keep going. If you are confused, keep trusting. If your body feels foreign, bless it. It is carrying you across the threshold. And if your soul is crying out for something more, don't silence it. Follow that cry. That cry is holy. That cry is the sound of your seed breaking open toward light. Don't run from the transformation. You are not falling apart. You are remembering what you were made of. And this path is not about escaping reality. It is about facing it, finally, with new eyes. You are not being asked to abandon the world, but to walk through it with a sacred awareness. It's not about becoming a saint overnight. It's about remembering who you are, who you've always been beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the trauma. It's about beginning to live more consciously, more aligned, more truthfully, with each breath, each choice, each connection. Have you considered that this deep discomfort might be divine preparation, not punishment? The body is not the enemy. It is the messenger. It's not lagging behind your growth. It's trying to keep up with the speed of your soul. Every fatigue, every flutter in your chest, every craving, every aversion, it's speaking in the only language it knows. If you dare to listen with reverence, not frustration, you will realize it is preparing you for a new dimension of living, one where surviving is no longer the goal, one where serving, growing, transforming and inspiring becomes your natural state of being. What if everything that once felt too much was just your old life trying to contain a new spirit? Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Your renewal is not a theory. It is physical, it is cellular, it is energetic. And yes, sometimes it is exhausting, but it is sacred. Trust the process, even when it feels heavy, even when no one else around you understands the tremors you feel in your heart. You are not lost, you are being guided. These signs, the aching, the clarity, the pull toward silence, the rejection of chaos, they are not random, they are confirmation. Divine breadcrumbs lighting your way. Have you noticed how life starts to push everything out that no longer honors your frequency? Take care of yourself in ways you never have before. Honor your body as if it were a temple, and it is. Nourish your soul like it holds nations within it, and it does. Be intentional about what enters your space, what you consume, who you give your time to, what you allow into your ears and heart. Because now, more than ever, it all matters. Your vibration is shifting, and your outer world is beginning to reflect that change. And if you feel something resonated, something clicked, something softened, then you already know. You are not imagining this. You are awakening, and you are not alone. Here, we speak to the ones who feel deeply, the ones who seek without knowing exactly what they're seeking, the ones who know, even without words, that something sacred is unfolding inside them. What kind of life is being prepared for the new version of you? What if this isn't the end, but the beginning of your real life? You are not becoming strange. You are becoming awake. And this awakening is not the conclusion. It's the divine threshold into a life that finally makes sense. Chosen one, if you recognize these signs, then the shift has already begun within you. Your awakening didn't start with fireworks. It started with discomfort, disconnection, divine silence, and inner pullings you couldn't explain. Heaven has been gently unraveling illusions, detaching you from what's false, and drawing you into what is eternal. This isn't the end of who you were. It's the unveiling of who you truly are. Your clarity is not arrogance. It's alignment. You're not broken. You're becoming. You're not isolating. You're incubating. The reason you no longer fit into old conversations, environments, or mindsets is because your spirit has already outgrown them. This awakening isn't about emotion, it's about elevation. You're rising because the veil is lifting, and now you see with sacred eyes what you once ignored with survival ones. Let this be your confirmation. You don't need to force what is already happening. The fruit is speaking. The peace that now feels non-negotiable, the hunger for truth, the discomfort around anything fake. It's all evidence that God is refining your frequency. Your awakening is not loud, but it is loudly accurate. And from here forward, your life will never be able to agree with anything less than what God has revealed. Declare it today: I'm already awakening, and I'm ready for more. Speak that over yourself, not from fear, but from faith. Don't rush the process. Don't beg for understanding from people still asleep. Your journey is sacred, and God is walking with you every step of the way. Even when you feel alone, you're aligned. If this word confirmed something deep in you, I invite you to explore more on my YouTube channel, where you'll find spirit-led messages, soul alignment truths, and prophetic insight to support your journey. These videos are not just content. They are tools for clarity, healing, and divine direction. Your spiritual awakening is not a trend, it's a holy transition, and I would be honored to walk this with you. If this resonated with your soul, take a moment to support the message that supported you. Click the like button, not for me, but to mark your agreement with truth. Share this with someone whose spirit is stirring but doesn't yet know why. Comment below and declare, I'm awake and I'm walking in light. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss your next divine download. To every single one of you, whether you've supported through super thanks, heartfelt comments, or just silent listening, thank you. I see you. Heaven sees you. You matter. And you are part of something far greater than you even realize right now. Until next time, stay aware, stay present, and stay aligned with God's timing. The awakening has begun, and it won't stop. Not until you become everything God whispered over you in secret, and not until your life becomes the very evidence that heaven still speaks. May God bless your sight, sanctify your steps, and shield your process. May wisdom rise within you like a river. May your hunger for truth never be silenced, and may your awakening ripple through generations. I'll see you in the next video.